everyone. I am Allison Rand from ASF and Club OS, and I am here with Stacy Anderson and Nick Hahn to talk about rebuilding community and how technology can help. And I just want to say thank you guys both for participating in this webinar. So let's get into it. We only have a half an hour and there's a lot to cover. I've been really excited to talk to Stacy. Stacy Anderson, who everyone probably already knows, is the brand president for Anytime Fitness. And everyone knows I'm obsessed with you, but I'm obsessed with you because you're a marketer who became a president. And I'm like, how can I become a president? So tell us a little bit about yourself and how your marketing brain has really carried you into what you're doing now.
Yeah, no, I'm a big fan of yours as well, Allison. So thank you guys for having me. This is fun. Yeah, marketer turned brand president. I think, I started my marketing career years ago, obviously ad agencies, retail, those types of things. And then I came to Anytime Fitness as our CMO. And, as a marketer, you're trained in like the customer experience is everything, making sure that every touch point is a moment to delight. And I think, marketers, maybe it was just myself, maybe I had a little bit of arrogance in my own kind of upbringing about, marketing is really the place that owns that customer experience and how we bring it to life and all those things. And as I kind of expanded my career into kind of more general management of the business, what's really become clear is that customer experience, that design, that delighting, making sure you're not disappointing people at the right place is really the job of the whole business. It is not just the job of marketing. It is the job of operations. It's the job of sales. It's the job of even franchise development and franchise administration. We're all servicing a customer here. And sometimes our customer is the franchisees, and sometimes our customer is the end member. But really keeping that in mind and that at the center of everything you do, I think has been a really just kind of big epiphany for me. Because as a marketer, I was like, gosh, I don't know that I could general manage a large brand like this, especially one that's in 37 countries and all those things of this breadth. But really that being the North Star has been the bridge that's made it easy for me to kind of expand beyond just the marketing role to go, gosh, how do we operationalize this? How do we bring it to life? How do we make digital solutions that surprise and delight our customers? How do we make sure that every club in our franchise, when we have 4,500 clubs across the globe, how do we make sure that they are standardized where necessary, localized where possible, but still staying true to making sure that we are delighting those members? So I think that's been the North Star that's kind of allowed me to bridge from marketing into more of the general management side of the world.
I love the use of delight. I feel like it sort of leads into like everything I want to talk to you about today, because it's really about that giving the customer, understanding what they want and then giving it to them at the right times, which we'll be talking a lot with Nick about later. But really quick, before we move into all of that great stuff, are you seeing the membership swing back up now that like the vaccine is coming out? Numbers are going back down again.
Yeah, we are seeing
out there.
Yeah, traffic is visits to our club is about at 80% where it was pre-COVID level. So we're still down a lot.
Great.
Yeah, it's not bad, right? And so we're seeing more people come back to the gyms slowly but surely. And you can see the populations, younger populations, males are coming back a little bit quicker than maybe some of the older populations and female folks. So it's been gradual over time. What I think is most interesting about what we're seeing now as people come back to the gyms, and again, lots of people kind of have that pent up demand to get out of their house and start to kind of loosen their restrictions a little bit. But what we're hearing is that people really want hybrid options. They don't want to be, just stuck in the gym, 3 times a week and do what they do there. They want options both inside and outside the club. And I think that's kind of been the really interesting output of COVID is, how do we adapt to the marketplace that isn't going to go back to an old normal? We've got a new normal going forward. So we're really looking at creating plans and programs that serve people inside and outside the club, anytime, anywhere kind of works for us. But that idea, because that's what customers want. They're used to working out at home. They want to work out outside. They want to get their fitness and exercise in kind of where it's most convenient for them. And so we're adapting our business to be able to meet that need in the marketplace quickly.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I want to hear more about that virtual, even if we don't get to do it on this webinar, like I'll call you and be like, can we do another one? Nick, you are the VP of product for Club OS and ASF. So you talk to a lot of owners and operators. Tell us a little bit about what you're seeing. Do you feel hopeful? Because I love hope. It's my middle name. Like, what are you seeing out there?
Yeah, definitely hopeful. From the software side of it, spending a lot of time with customers, the creativity that our customers have shown over the last year now has been outstanding. It's so encouraging, and it's intoxicating even to see the creativity that these brands are going through. From the large groups like Anytime Fitness to the smaller groups, right? The 1 or 2 locations, they're still having to reimagine what their business is going to be. As Stacy mentioned, the hybrid option, that's going to be a reality for a long time as we go back to the new normal. Obviously, coming back to normal is highly localized. Some areas we're seeing customers that are only back to 60% of check-ins. Other areas are up to 90% of check-ins, and that's really what's happening right now. Anecdotally, as a member of multiple gyms, I'm excited to see the small group trainings that I go to are starting to fill up. So back in December, one of my classes I do every Saturday morning, it's a conditioning class. There was only 3 of us that were going in December. It's up to 8 now, right? So we're starting to fill up again. We have the capacity to be socially distanced at 12, so we only can find 4 more friends. So and it's interesting to see the community aspects of we're trying to pull people in that are walking by like, hey, come try out this class. Come compete with us. Come, let's see who can run faster. But we're slowly building that community back, and it's encouraging and exciting to see.
Okay, well, if nothing else comes out of this webinar, we know there's capacity to work out with Nick in his small group training. So just hit him up on LinkedIn if you're interested.
If you're outside Philly, come on by.
I want to talk about customer experience and insights. Recently, Stacy and I did a webinar together, and you talked, Stacy, about being everything you do being grounded in customer insights. And I love that idea. And I wondered if you could expand on that a little for this webinar.
Happy to. I think, just like we started talking about kind of that customer experience, like starting with those insights. And, I don't mean to make it sound like it's easy either. The reality is in a business, you have a lot of things tugging at you, especially in a franchise business. You have owners that tug you one way. You've got business needs that tug you another way. You've got vendors and partners that tug you different ways. And technology right now also is like, gosh, you can do just about anything you'd ever want to do. So there's all of these opportunities to create these really amazing experiences. But are you really solving a customer problem? Are you really solving a customer need? Are you addressing the pain points they've got in your current experience right now? So we do a lot of we have ongoing brand trackers and surveys and communities of members that we tap into for insights. We also scour social media, because as soon as you mess something up, you have a bad experience, it shows up on your Facebook pages or in Twitter or whatever. So social media is a huge source of those insights for us. And honestly, our best insights come from our franchisees. In fact, not too long ago, gosh, it was right prior to COVID, one of our owners came to us and said, gosh, I'm really noticing a lot of movement challenges with a lot of my training clients. Like they have shoulder injuries or knee injuries or back pain, and was thinking about gosh, how do we integrate physical therapy services and those types of things into our gyms? And so that insight, they're the feet on the street. They are talking to members every single day. And so we put a lot of weight into what we hear from people, right there on the front lines. And so that was kind of the start of we've got a 15 to 20 store test going on right now that's integrating physical therapy as part of our offerings within our gyms. And so those are the insights that not only let you fix kind of the little pain points, gosh, your app doesn't work well here or whatever, those moments come through in your feedback channels, but also in terms of future growth. I love when a franchisee stumbles upon something that looks like a great opportunity. And frankly, they're live in the wild in the market. It isn't survey reported type stuff that's I might do this if you do this. It's real live behavior happening. So I love to learn from those types of insights as well.
I love that. I mean, that PT idea makes complete sense to me, especially just as a way to like help you stand out, like your PT offering will stand out, you know, in the community. We also talked about your New Year's resolution, which was to focus on giving the customer, like the great customer experience.
Yep.
And I like love that idea. And I just wanted to know like sort of what you feel like that means.
Yeah, you know, like I said, there's a lot of different things that tug you in different directions. And some years it's the franchisee, and some years that voice of the customer gets too quiet in your business. And I think this is kind of that year. I'd really love to renew that focus on that insight. And we put a lot of things out in the market in the last few years. Again, apps and offerings and small group training. And, you know, I just mentioned physical therapy. We've got a lot of these things out there, but we also know that there are moments that we could do better for folks. And so I think it's, I think this is the year going forward that we really want to make sure that we kind of had that renewed sense of making sure that experience is great. And maybe it's not about introducing new whiz bang things, but really going through and experiencing that for ourselves to make sure that we're getting those moments of friction out of our business, so that frankly, competition has never been thicker, and it's not going to get any easier as we come out of COVID. And so making sure that we are, you know, your customers vote with their dollars, and will tell you whether or not your experience is decent based on whether or not they come back. And we all know in the fitness industry, attrition is the bane of our existence. So you have to be delivering a better experience, or they won't stay. They'll go to the gym across the street. So that's kind of our focus this year for sure. Refocus.
I love that. I mean, and I think it makes a lot of sense now, especially given COVID, and people are like, well, then forget it. I'll just go somewhere else, or I'll just go home.
Yeah.
Nick, what are you seeing from all of your customers out in the field? Are they using any customer insights to sort of get a better idea of their customer experience?
Yeah, I think what every business and really every organization has one of the biggest risks is developing an echo chamber where you're only listening to your own ideas, right? Like even in software development, that's like a common problem, that you got to make sure you're starting with the market, right? So getting that customer insight and seeing the data, seeing the actual usage. So for example, during COVID, we all had to change our class schedules, right? Like there's not as much capacity to have to offer as many classes. So picking and choosing the right classes based off the usage data. If you weren't previously tracking check-ins to your classes, and you weren't, even if it's a free service for your members, if you weren't actually tracking attendance, you're missing that insight into which classes were really performing well and what type of person was going to that class. Is it skewing male? Is it female? Is it young? Is it older, et cetera? That way you can build a profile, because if you're offering classes that previously were only attended by a demographic that's no longer attending the gym as frequently right now, that's a class that you don't really want on your schedule. So having that data, having that insight can help you read between the tea leaves of what's happening and avoid the echo chamber of just the confirmation bias that you might have of, oh, well, every time I go to the gym, every time I stop into this one location at 9 a.m., these are the people there. Well, what's happening at 10? What's happening at 5? It's different times at different times of day.
You know, just building on that, I think that's a really great point. And as we are seeing different populations more ready to come back to the gym, and others being more, you know, I think I read a stat the other day, something about like 60% of gym members intend to continue to use some sort of digital at-home service. And so as you look at that data and recognize, gosh, these are the populations that really value that sticky in-person community, but these are the other folks that might need to be served a different way. And how do you meet those needs so that you aren't losing that revenue, but instead you just have to find a way to adapt your offering to be able to continue to capitalize on a need that's out there that might have changed over these last 12 months.
Yeah, I think there's also like a huge need to understand what they're doing at home and how you can connect that to what they're doing in the club, because you put out all these virtual products and then you're not really connecting them to like, who is this person in full? But
Absolutely.
That's
Absolutely.
a great, really fun segue.
We talk a lot about omni-channel experiences and making sure that that experience is seamless between a gym, you outside, you at home, all of those things. Like that's the new world we're operating in. I don't think any of us are going to go back to this land where it's this one size fits all in this one channel. I think and you might be channel dominant, but I do think there's just such opportunity in this new market to adapt and meet people where they're at versus forcing them into what you do well.
Yeah, I mean, but it's like, to that point, it's like we rushed into solutions because of COVID, feeling like it was temporary. Now it's not temporary. And so now it's sort of like, okay, based on where we're going, what is the right solution and how are you going to understand the full member? Even though now I'm going off script. So Nick, I want to talk to you a little bit about community from your perspective. And then I want to hear from you too, Stacy, about what your franchises are doing in terms of community. So everything's different now, but community is still, of course, really key. It's key. Events are key to driving prospects in and for engaging them and retaining them. So it's 2021, people are still wearing masks. Like, what are you seeing?
Yeah, one of the reasons why I'm so hopeful about things getting back to normal is that a lot of our customers are still doing their challenges that they do. So, January is all about getting memberships in. February is about trying to get the add-on components in. So starting their weight loss challenges, a lot of our customers are starting them, and the initial numbers, the signups are actually on par with last year. They're down a little bit, but not as much as the check-ins are down. That's a great way to be building the community by having that challenge. It fosters people who are going through something together and can be sharing and relating to each other and building that deeper bond that they wouldn't otherwise have by just standing next to each other 12 feet away on treadmills. Now they're 12 feet away, but they're both trying to have the same goal and they're both weighing in at the same time and they're both competing against each other. So it's a whole new level of community. And I think what I continue to see is adapting those challenges past just weight loss. Having competitions of who can run 1 mile a day for the most consecutive days, best improvement on a certain exercise, that kind of stuff, being able to expand it. And that's where that full, including meeting the customer where they are, including the mobile aspect, getting their at-home aspect in. Because to Stacy's point, not everyone's going to be at the gym, and the challenges have to extend outside of the gym. So why not let them go for a run around their neighborhood? There's no reason why they can't be doing that. There's no reason why we can't encourage that. And there's no reason why we can't capitalize on that and have them comparing results against each other. I went for my run, you went for your run around your neighborhood. Who did better and who's making the most improvement? So it's really encouraging, just again, to see the creativity and there's so much opportunity that's just ripe for innovation over the next couple of months.
Stacy, when I was at the Germantown, Maryland location, I saw the signage for the challenges and I saw some, before and after pictures, and it was really encouraging to see that still happening despite COVID. What are you guys really, how are you training your staff and your franchisees to work on your sense of community these days?
Yeah, I think Nick made some really great points in there. Building a sense of community, used to mean getting together in person and connecting with people face to face. And I think we've all learned over these last few months that you have to find ways to create community that are shared experiences that might not be in person all of the time. And so I love this picture. It warms my heart, the photo of everybody in person, which is fantastic. And we have lots and lots of tools for folks to do 6-week challenges in person. We have campaigns that go on. We have platforms with Special Olympics and Movement Foundation and a lot of other things that really drive kind of the stickiest thing in a gym really is a connection, not even to the owners or the staff, it's a connection to each other. And so we really encourage them to get involved in their local communities too, because what's important here in my Woodbury gym might not be what's important in your Germantown, Maryland gym. And what is the heart of our brand and the heart of what we do in this industry is give back to people, improving their health. And so we see it show up in food drives, raising money. So, one of our members' houses burned down the other day, and they're doing a fun run to raise money for that person. It's really, I think, grounded in the fact of doing things together with a common cause and a shared experience. But I also think there's a huge give back component right now that, frankly, the community is hungry for, that the nation is hungry for, frankly, the world, in terms of how do we make things better for people, not just their health and wellness. This is less about hey, it used to be the spring was all about like my bikini body because I was going to go out on spring break. This is more about doing well, thinking about your health and wellness in a more holistic way, but also giving back to your community in a way that, it's like, let's be kind to each other. So I love the creativity that we see, in the clubs. And again, they come up with some ideas that honestly we'd never think about corporately. So we take the best of the best and try to give them the tools to replicate that across the system.
Giving back to the community, I think, is like the best thing about working in the fitness industry. Working when I was at Vita, giving back to the community was like such an important part of what we did. And I loved that it was like part of my job. And I feel like these events, it's like you're giving back to the community, but you're also like talking to your staff about like why we're here and why we do this. And I think it drives all of the hard work.
Absolutely. That sense of purpose. I've never worked in a business. I laugh because, folks are getting tattooed with our logo on their arm. I'm like, just wait, like open your gym first. Like the mom in me is like, stop with the tattoo. But it is about that sense of purpose. And it is about that change that people are making, not only personally in their lives, but helping other people there. And when you've seen success yourself, you can't help but kind of want to pay it forward. So it's the best part of this industry for sure. We're not just selling, widgets. We are selling hope and a better life. And that's pretty powerful.
Yeah, I love that. So it's like, here we are talking about all of this like community, and it's like really human and from the heart. And then I'm like going to say to Nick, well, what does that have to do with software?
So boring. Thanks for setting me up. Jeez.
But it's not boring because when we were talking yesterday and you were explaining it to me, I found it actually to be like, oh my gosh, that's the opposite of boring. So like, how does software really help us do all of these very human things?
Yeah, well, it's interesting. When you look at millennials and Gen Z, let's just call them out. There's not as much of a sense of community for them without some kind of mobile social component nowadays.
Wait, hold on. They also don't like side parts anymore. And
I know. I've wanted to talk to you about that.
Yeah. So, okay. So those people that don't
That's
like,
true. Yes. Yeah. Skinny jeans and side parts are out now. That's what I've learned on the internet.
But using mobile for community driving is good. And so I interrupted you. Go on.
No, but exactly. But so the reality is, and this so true. COVID just only accelerated this more. But there is no sense of community without that. My son, socially distancing was probably the wrong term for us to latch onto originally. It really is about physically distance. We can still be social from a distance, right? Yeah. But my 9-year-old plays video games every night with his friends on Facebook Messenger, right? And they're chatting with each other and they're communicating. They're constantly texting each other. He hasn't been the last year has been the most social he's ever actually been, which is so crazy to think about. But it's all over technology and it's not physically close to each other, right? He hasn't had a friend over in a while, but he's still socialized with so many of his friends. And the mobile component in technology and software can really help bring that. And that's where the industry definitely had to rush and adapt very quickly, but now it's time to think more long term about how we can merge the community aspects with the social media, with building your own social situation through a mobile app.
Yeah, I think that it's really like my son the other day, I caught him with his phone in his bed at 11 p.m. And he said, well, that's when my friends text each other. Do you want to take my phone away from me? And I was like, no, I can't. I can't take a 13-year-old only connection to his peers away. So
I know it's crazy. It's, although, I've got stories of my son's teachers having to ban the chatting in Zooms because they're all just chatting while she's teaching. So it's interesting how kids will use technology to still try to be social.
Yeah, and so when it comes to understanding how to use that best in the gym, there's what's best for the member and then what's best for us in terms of how we understand their experience, right? And I think the first piece of it is really being able to learn from them in order to rebuild. and to drive people back into the gym. So I wanted to talk a little bit about that. And I have some slides, but Stacy, just because we're talking about product doesn't mean we don't want you to jump in and provide input, but like really just how can you use the demographics to understand how to best rebuild your club and get it back to, get the community, bring it back to life.
Right. And so this is where, there's a lot of generalizations that can be made, but of course, everything ultimately happens locally. So for a specific location, your demographic, the people that are actually coming back, we're seeing across the board, they are skewing younger, but at the same time, some locations, some areas of the country, that's not necessarily the case. Being able to see very plainly the insights into who's actually coming in and attending, checking into your gym, lets you know who you should be marketing to, right? Like maybe there's just certain areas of retargeting that you should just be avoiding because it's just not worth the dollar spend. Because even if you get them, they're not necessarily going to come in. How long are they going to last? It's not a high value acquisition target anymore. So you want to skew towards the more millennial, Gen Z, male versus female, depending on where you are. Also, we are definitely seeing across our clubs that males are a lot more likely to be joining right now and females aren't. And there's a lot of reasons for that. Everything from childcare, and that's another thing, like being able to test out if you do start offering childcare again in your location, do you get more of the female demographic back? We've seen some locations who, as they were starting to open up childcare, they did start getting the female demographic back, and then they had a more well-rounded membership base using the locations.
Yeah, I think it's like about using the demographics if you may not leave an audience behind, but you may figure out how to target them better to say to women, like, you don't have to stop going to the gym because, your husband can take care of the baby for an hour. Go work out.
Or your husband, yeah, exactly. Or in my case, I bring the kids with me to the gym so my wife gets some quiet time without them.
When I was little, I remember using the kids as weights. There's nothing like a squat with a 3-year-old on your shoulders. But those, that's what people are doing. I think this pandemic has really taught us to integrate it into our lives where you can get it. And, where can you fit this into your, your life? So.
Like shoveling snow.
Yes. Which I have to do later.
Oh man, I had to take a day off after doing that.
Yeah, much better. So, we were talking about this earlier with the classes and how, before, I think many clubs probably didn't even track who was going to what class. And one of the things that came out of COVID was this need to control capacity. And that's pushed many clubs into tracking who's going to what class and understanding that, not just for prospects, but for scheduling and for giving members a better experience. How would someone use a Club OS or a ASF to help their member experience by looking at these types of analytics?
Yeah, so this is an example of one customer of ASF, and you can see when COVID hit and when they were shut down by the complete drop off. So this is just showing a couple of their different class offerings. And it's interesting because personal training, they were actually doing really well at personal training. It was one of their most popular things, but after COVID, that has not returned nearly as quickly as their group classes. Their group classes actually have more attendance than they did pre-COVID, whereas personal training is still lagging behind. And so is small group training. That's the small group training is the goldish, yellowish line on there also. So being able to see that data, and again, anecdotally, your PTs might be saying, oh, I'm not getting clients. I am versus I'm not. Which classes do you want to have? But clearly, this customer needed to start adding in more group training offerings because people were comfortable in a group when you're in a larger room together and socially distanced. That was more comfortable for people, but that one-on-one interaction, their demographic wasn't quite ready for in the same volumes as it was before. It also could be obviously for financial reasons, PT usually being more expensive, their demographic might have been hit a little bit harder by some of the employment issues over COVID. And that could also lead to group classes are a lot cheaper than small group training or personal training. So there's just not the cash flow for the members to be supporting personal training anymore.
So,
okay. Oh, sorry. I was just going to say, to Nick's point, knowing this data is so important and staying on top of it so closely now, because the environment is changing so quickly with every new restriction, with everything that closes down and opens up, these numbers start to shift, and really being able to use the data to inform what you're doing to nimbly adapt is just super, super important. So I love this. And somehow I find comfort that your data is very similar to ours as we look system-wide. Find some comfort in that. We've got that big dip too, which is really painful to look at.
I know the big dip.
I was wondering. Go ahead. Sorry, Nick.
Oh, painful is the best word. It's just like, oh, like that. You have flashbacks to that time. That was a rough couple months.
Yeah, for sure.
I feel like I just want to mention something that, like, when you look at this data and you think about software, you have clubs using multiple different kinds of software where they can't see an aggregate view of their member, right? So I might know I have my group information here, I have my virtual up here, I have my check-in data over here, and you don't really understand like the member experience. So like when you think about that, Nick, like I just want to understand a little bit about, like, this is about segmenting the marketing, but like how you're thinking about that as you're developing the product, because people now, like if you want to offer the best customer experience with the best insights, you need to understand the full experience and then be able to target them that way. So I just wanted to sort of get your sense of that and where you're taking the product to help clubs get that sort of an easier view of that data.
Sure. So everything's about interoperability in the world today. I'm going to start throwing around big tech terms, but I guess I'm going to do that. It's, interoperability.
Okay, I'm going to write it down.
I'm having PTSD flashbacks to my healthcare days. But, everyone needs an ecosystem, right? Each brand needs to be able to offer the best in class, and each brand's going to have a different definition of what they need with their members to be successful. And there's also the huge differences of a brand like Anytime Fitness versus a smaller 1 or 2 club locations and just what they're going to be able to manage. Not everyone has their own dedicated IT teams. Sometimes the location's IT teams are really just Bob, the sales manager, knows how to unplug the computer when it stops working, right? So they're not able to create their own analytic dashboards like a larger company like Anytime Fitness is able to do to get that consumer insight. So having a product where you're open to collaborating with other partners, any kind of partners, but then you are exchanging data in such a way that there is a source of truth there. You want a single source of truth ultimately. You want that single repository for where all your member data is going to live, but you want to be flexible and you want to allow your customers to have the best in breed in everything. So if there's a cool new technology out there that they want to use, you want to support that. You just want to be able to get the insights into what's happening. That way you can build that true member profile and that single member record so that they can get that true view of what the member's doing, which then you can use for marketing. See, I tied it back somehow.
Stacy, I saw you nodding. Did you have something you wanted to add?
No, I just agree wholeheartedly that single member view is so hard to do in this industry. It's just tough, especially with attrition and when people come and go and in and out. And so I nod in affirmation that single customer view is super, super valuable, hard to get to in a lot of systems, and just really, really valuable. So in terms of insights, so good.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. And like, I think about that because when I looked at our point of sale system at ASF, I was like, oh, so boring to learn about point of sale. But then when we started to talk about it in terms of the member and understanding that member experience and understanding what that member is purchasing and doing in relation to what classes they're taking and how often they're checking in, then it becomes like, oh, this is actually really important and interesting, even if I think stocking the shelves is super boring.
Right. You can start tying back to, okay, the people who attend this one specific HIT class are more likely to buy a shake afterwards. So you can make sure you have your shake staff ready. You can start offering discounts to people who attend that class saying, hey, here's $5 off, try a shake and get them hooked. That way you are kind of cross-selling additional services or retail through your locations.
Yeah, I mean, it's like what you end up having is so many opportunities to do different things, like small group training and, you know, Pilates, and you can't offer every member everything because they'll just unsubscribe. So like in terms of just this member experience, it's also about being able to understand what they want. And that's been a challenge, I think, in our industry. And so how do you feel like ASF and Club OS like help deliver on that?
Sure, I think part of it is just tracking all the information, and then Club OS's segmentation functionality that allows you to target down to this event, this retail item. It can get very granular in what you're tracking. For example, you know, you bought a protein pack, a 30 pack of protein bars. You're about, it's been 20 days. You're probably almost running out. Let's remind them that they should repurchase. But then let's say they go 3 months and they haven't repurchased yet. Now you hit them with a coupon being like, hey, you haven't bought these bars in a while. Do they not taste good? Like, what's going on? Here's a discount if you want to come try them again. Like, we'd love to have it. So really tying the consumer insights and the purchasing patterns to the essential components and how you actually communicate with the members. Of course, while not overwhelming them, you don't want to offer a shake to someone who's keto, that unless you offer keto shakes, then you do. But that you want to make sure that you keep that in mind.
Yeah, who wants a gross keto shake anyway?
I know.
So maybe they're really delicious. I have no idea.
They're not.
So I want to go back to what we were talking about earlier with challenges and mobile, and just learn a little bit of secret information about where we're going with mobile and how you think the future of the ASF mobile product will help people with these community driving activities.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, mobile really is the connective tissue for the future demographics of the gym. You obviously don't want to exclude the other demographics, but you do want to start meeting those newer members that are going to continue to make up more and more of the population. So ASF is actually launching a brand new mobile app where there's a whole new next generation of it that we're just about wrapping up on. We're about to move into a closed beta with some selected customers. We're really excited about it. It's really about connecting the club to the member through the digital means, connecting the club in location community with each other. You want the coaches to be able to chat directly with members through the system in a way that can be tracked, and you can make sure that the trainers aren't, you know, giving bad advice or trying to siphon off the trainers on the members on their own for personal training, that kind of stuff. So you want to have a little oversight, but also encouraging the members to talk to each other, right? A trainer could put his or her class into a group chat together, and they can all talk about how the workout was. You know, the trainer could check in a couple hours later, hey, how's everyone feeling? Or the next day, hey, how's everyone feeling? Like, oh, I'm really sore. Don't ever do that again, please. Or, hey, more of that. I'm really sore. Please, more. Let's do that again tomorrow. And that communication, that dialogue, and having things open and transparent and available so that you're connecting the way people want to talk. We want to talk on our phone. We all have a million chat apps at this point. Connecting that, why not have that same line of communication with your gym and with your clients and the trainers? It's a great relationship to foster.
Yeah, I think that it will help drive retention for sure. Okay, well, anyone have any parting thoughts before we wrap this up?
No, just thank you for having us. I think this is a great discussion. I think everybody in the gym and fitness industry right now is looking for ways to drive their business, use some insights to adapt and move. And I think the tools you guys are rolling out into the industry are going to be really, really helpful. You've got good timing.
Well, Stacy, I love hearing your thoughts on marketing, and I want to be you one day. So that's not
I
fair.
really feel like a third wheel here. I'm just going to go out and say that. You guys have something going on, and I'm over
cool.
here just.
I'm just saying,
oh.
I think it's really cool to Okay, fine. No more on that.
Total girl crush.
Thank you everyone for attending this. And I hope we get to do 1 million more of them. If you want a up close and personal look at Club OS or ASF, you can hit me up on LinkedIn, you can hit Nick up on LinkedIn, or you can type this long URL into your computer. And definitely come see it. Even if you're not interested in switching software, give us a call, let us show it to you, and then you can tell us why you hate it, because we want to learn. So, but we don't think you'll hate it. Anyways, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Have a great day, guys.
Bye.
Good to see you.